Hey, hey,
Hey,
Vaibhav.
yeah. Hey, Amit. Uh, Hello, all. Welcome to this month's Webmaster Office Hours Hangout. So, if you have any questions in English or Hindi too, Syed will answer the Hindi questions. So, let's get started. We will like you all know we recently launched the mobile update a couple days back. So, if you have any questions on that, please do ask us. We'll start off with taking question from Viber in within the Q&A app. So the question is, app indexing is a ranking signal. What for stores which are not on Google Play because Google Play doesn't allow apps of store having free apps. Uh, so honestly, I don't know much about Google Play's app policy, but the ranking signal is basically so that if your website is already ranking in Google search, even if say if I'm using an Android phone and I don't have your app installed and your website is ranking in Google search, that app will show up as a link if you have installed app indexing. So previously, only for apps that I've already installed, I've already installed on my phone, were showing up. Now all apps were put in as a ranking signal. So whether I've installed them or not, if they're in the Play Store and they've implemented app indexing, I can I can see them in search. I can basically go to the app via the Google search links, right? So it's right now we are supporting only the Play Store platform, but like you can stay tuned for future updates.
Yeah, I think we have rolled this out for Android devices and
Play Store apps
Play
only.
Store
Right now,
apps only right now.
the
Yeah.
base to implement is only for Play Store apps. But yeah, please stay tuned for future updates on this.
Uh, Hi Ashish.
Hey, Viber.
Yeah. So my question was actually earlier we don't have that app on Google Play, right? But now it is a ranking signal. Am I right?
Yeah, so the ranking signal is basically so that it just shows up on search if you have, if your mobile page, the corresponding mobile page is already showing up in the mobile search. So it's like there are 10 search results which are already showing up in normal mobile web search. And for some of them, they've implemented app indexing. So we're sort of showing a button to go to the app. It's not a separate ranking signal. Does that make sense?
But again, it will definitely somewhere harm our rankings if I say it is a ranking signal, and
Sorry,
we don't have.
your voice is breaking.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah,
So I was just saying app right now on Google, and policy that stores are having free apps in A.
I'm really sorry. If you don't mind, can you type the question in chat? Your voice is breaking. I can't really understand.
It's very flaky, Vaibhav.
So give us a minute. We'll just take a look at the chat. So what I mean to say is, Google App Indexing. It's sort of similar to rich snippets, where if you implemented structured data, like we'll show, like ratings and phone numbers within the search result, right? So this is
Perfect.
sort of a similar feature, but this is only restricted to Android phones and apps on Play Store. So this is not a separate ranking signal. No, no, that's what I'm trying to say. It's not a separate ranking signal. If your site is already relevant to the query, so how it works is if you have 10 pages on your website and those 10 pages link to corresponding pages on your app. So what we're since your website is already ranking, we're sort of showing a button to go to the app so that the user can have like the app experience you want them to have. So this just because they have an app doesn't mean like they go five places up in ranking.
Okay. Okay.
So we provide a button there so that they can view your website in an app experience that you designed. Okay. Do we have any live questions now? All right, then we'll go to the next question from Neeraj Pandey. Why should I disavow the links coming to my website? Thousands of links come daily. If I am a big brand and earning only 40% quality links and 60% low quality links, it is not possible for me to have a check on them. Why should I be penalized for it? So first thing, like this sort of comes under the negative SEO bracket in some cases where you're afraid that people like sort of link to you with bad anchors, to purposefully bring down your website in Google search. This is something we recognize and we, keep working on it. So if your site has like 40 good links and 60 bad links, we try and identify the links that are coming from sketchy sources and discount them so that, we provide your site the correct representation in Google search so that we try and not let those bad links manipulate your ranking, right? So right, I don't think if you're getting so many bad links from sketchy sources, we try and discount them ourselves, so you shouldn't worry about that too much. But it's a good practice to generally go to Webmaster Tools and like we have a link report with a sample of links. It's just a sample, but you can quickly make a check on what kind of links you're getting your link profile, and if you see many sketchy links that are coming from bad black hat sources, you can just clean them up. You can try and request the link be removed. If you can't, you can explain. You can sort of put them in the disavow file. But of course, this is only for if it's something algorithmic. But if it's manual action, then you will get a proper notice in manual action viewer, and there you can sort of you actually have to go and clean up your link profile in Webmaster Tools and submit a report for us via the reconsiderations tool, and then we'll look and give you feedback on if your site is like now good to go, or if the label manual action still applies. Does that make sense?
I think Neeraj is not here. So basically what Ashish is trying to say, the bottom line is you need not really worry about these links if you see them coming, linking to your pages randomly, right? Once in a while it is a good idea to keep a check on these links, but worrying about them constantly, like disavowing them, may not be actually required.
Okay. Any live questions?
Yeah, I have one. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can. Go ahead.
Okay. So my question is about the canonical tag and content syndication. A lot of times, what happens is that we publish blog posts on our website, and then that is syndicated by some content aggregators, and we have a canonical tag which points to the URL on our website. But when the syndication happens, they somehow strip the canonical tag, and that is not there in the version that is up on their website. And because these sites, like for example it's an MSN or a Yahoo, they get indexed by the Google bot before it indexes our site, and as a result, like a lot of times my content is not there in the search results, and it's their content that shows up for the search string. So is that a penalty that is being put on me, and is Google marking my content as duplicate? And if that is so, then how do I fix that while being able to syndicate my content at the same time?
Okay, Ashish, I think good question, but what do you mean by people removing the canonical tag from your
I
content?
mean, when the version of my article is published on MSN or Yahoo, let's say, or whatever website it is, the canonical tag is not there in their HTML markup.
Right.
So it's not pointing to my URL, and like, so I mean, even if it says that, like, it doesn't, I mean, even if the article was published on my website first, because the canonical tag is not there on Yahoo or MSN or whoever the aggregator is, and because these sites have like better authority and the Google bot is crawling them more often, a lot of times that article on that website gets picked first, and my search, like ranking gets hit. So I mean, what do I do about that?
Right. First of all, we should understand that Google actually is very good at detecting like the original content and separate it from duplicate content, right?
Right.
Yeah. However, this doesn't mean that in all instances, only the original content, the website of the original content would rank. There may be some cases where your content which is being copied by other websites may also rank above you. This may happen in some instances. For example, if they are adding some great value around your content, and generally we feel that on the internet people are actually looking for that kind of value add and looking for those kind of services, and they want to see your article, your content with all those value added items, then it makes sense to send them to that website instead of only the content page, right? So I think overall what you need to think about is how you can engage your users better on your website, right? So that they are wanting to come back to your website to get that content. Yeah.
Right.
And also when it comes to the canonical tag, I think the content syndication, basically all the people who are syndicating content, they would explicitly have to mention the canonical tag, which is the norm that it is not generally done, right?
Right.
You put the canonical tag on your own websites where you feel, okay, these are duplicate pages and I want this page, this is the canonical page, and I want this to be reflected in search, not the other pages. In those scenario, you do the canonical and alternate tags, right? But new syndication in general, that's not the norm, right?
No, yeah. No, but is there a way? I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is just a suggestion, or I mean, is there a way to point out that okay, this particular website has copied my content? If something like that happens, is there a reporting tool for that?
So if you feel something not right happening, then you can of course use this spam report tool we have, right? Just type in Google Spam report tool and you can report those pages, those websites. Yes, but the bottom line, as I said, is Google is generally good at detecting all this kind of activity, because as you can imagine, content syndication is very, very common, right? And many times it is actually useful to syndicate content.
Right.
And as I said, if you can think more broadly in terms of, okay, instead of just writing this post, how can I use, for example, social media to engage with my audience, build my brand, be recognized,
right,
and basically wanted by my users, so that they are eager to come back to my site for all this value add that I'm providing, right? So if you can build these things into your strategies, then I think overall you should improve.
All right, thanks a lot.
No problem, welcome. Any other live questions we have? Okay, so I think we'll go back to the Q&A app. Okay, Shri3 asks, okay, there are two questions basically from her. One says, which are the best promotion techniques of Android and iOS apps? The second question, I think it is similar. How can I promote Android and iOS apps with the help of organic marketing, social media marketing, email marketing, and with other resources? Okay, so I think we are not experts in any of these areas. We can talk about search and specifically Google search, but email marketing and or social media marketing and things like those, we are not experts in those areas. However, what I can say is, if you want to promote your Android apps, now that we have app indexing, do consider that, right? So make your content within apps indexable by Google. So basically, Google can rank your app content in search results on Android devices, right? So that is one way to basically get exposure to your app content. Right now, it is, of course, limited to Android devices. And your Google Play app. So I think that is one thing I would definitely recommend. Is someone speaking? I hear very tiny voice somewhere. No? Are there any live questions?
Maybe we take the next question.
Yeah.
Any new update on Penguin or Panda? Yeah, right. As of now, we don't have any news or updates. Um, Google introduced a new URL structure format. With this new URL structure, Google suggests to implement two schemas, breadcrumb and site name, while checking with data structure testing tool. It's showing error for breadcrumbs for missing URLs of active links. Why so? Honestly, without properly looking at it, we can't really give a good opinion around it. So maybe post in the forums for specific questions.
Yeah, I think you should go back and check the implementation of rich snippets, that code. So if you have missed a field, then probably fix that. Otherwise, I think if you could post that in forum, then we can take a closer look. Somebody on the forum may take a closer look and be able to advise you. Without looking at the code in the scenario, actually, you won't be able to do much. Okay. The other question from Ramesh. It says, what percentage of search results is impacted with recent Google mobile friendly update? It is already rolled out, so you might be having some data for this change. Okay, so two things. First of all, remember that this change is going to affect the search results only on mobile devices, right? Not the desktop or tab. And second, it is going to take at least a week or more for it to be completely rolled, right? So it is just 2 days as of now. And talking about what kind of impact, I think it is going to have big impact. I can say that much, right? As far as we know, it is going to have huge impact on search results on mobile devices, and is going to have no impact on search results on web or on tabs and other such devices. Is Ramesh here in the Hangout? I don't see him. Yeah, but I hope we answered his questions.
We'll take question from Kuldeep. Adding content to the existing blog or creating separate article section on site, which one is useful in getting traffic to website? So from our perspective, like adding good content is more important than like which part of the blog you put the content in. One thing, if you're worried about where to put the content, make sure like all parts of your site are easily navigatable from like your homepage. So make sure the navigation structure is clean, and and the URL structure in itself is like easy to read, and the URL names are like nice instead of numbers or something. But otherwise, we don't like where exactly the article is doesn't really matter. So content is what matters.
Yeah, if you're talking about having an article section and a separate blog, then I think it basically goes back to your business strategy. And I think based on those, what kind of resources you have, what is your goal and things like that, you should decide what kind of content you want to put on blog and what are the articles actually going to be. I think those things should influence your decision. It is going to have no effect on search results ranking actually.
Okay, we have a quick question on chat asking if it's safe to use Fetches Google every day. It's up to you. I mean, if you Fetches Google is generally like you can use it to see how Google checks use your web pages. So if you think you're blocking some CSS resources, or maybe there's like you're worried about if you get a hack message or something, generally Fetches Google is good to check so that like if someone's showing different pages to the browser and different pages to Google bot, you can see that in using the Fetches Google tool. And in the Fetches Google render, you can check if you're actually blocking any CSS or JavaScript files. For that purpose, it's useful. So it's not if you want to use it every day, you go ahead. It's not that.
Okay, we have a question from Ross.
Something's not working with my blog. Again, sorry, like it's a bit time consuming for us to look at individual specific cases. So if you can post that in our forum.
Or otherwise, Ross, if you're listening, I don't see you in Hangout. So if you can elaborate a little bit what exactly is not working, then we may be able to advise. Otherwise, please feel free to post it in the forum.
Okay, we'll just take a question from the chat. So, my client's site got featured in Google Answer Box or Rich Answer Box. What else can we do, and how often are those updated once we make the changes? We also made changes to improve the page, but Google Rich Answer Box is yet to update the info. So if I'm understanding this correct, it's probably one box for answers. So sort of like when someone asks a question on how many centuries did Sachin Tendulkar score, if it's possible and if a website allows us to crawl that information, we'll probably post that answer in Google search. But this is done automatically, and like once you implement your structured data and all of that properly, there's like no other effort required on your part. Google generally crawls and picks up the information necessary by itself. So there's no tools or anything to specifically get your site into the one box. Everything is fine, but the answer box is not updated. Sometimes it can take a while for us to recrawl stuff, so sorry about that.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Yeah.
So is there a criteria for a website to get included in the knowledge graph or the answer box?
Honestly, for businesses, in general, it's when you have a Google Plus page verified, there's a good chance you'll feature in knowledge graph because it's verified information that like some representative actually calls and checks the with your physical location to see if it's a legitimate business or not. But apart from celebrities and known personalities, I'm not sure. We are not really sure about what goes into the knowledge graph and what. Okay. Sorry. One more question from Vaibhav in the chat. If I have content for Android users from organic results, we get a lot of traffic from Java which are not engaging with the content. How to deal with it? We want Android users to come, so when Google Mobile is making next change to deal with such a problem. I'm not sure. So if you have content on your website that helps Android users with Java, or like Android developers with Java, I'm not sure. Okay, so is it like content that only works on Android phones? Is that what you mean?
Vaibhav, do you mean the content that is for web is showing up on, or you have no content for web, but the Android pages are showing up in Google's web search results? Is that what you mean? I think you're mute. Let me unmute you. Yeah, we are not able to hear you actually.
Can you unmute yourself? We're not able to do that. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yep. So what I was saying that our website is having a content which is basically for Android.
Okay.
Right? There are apps and games which work on Android phone. They don't work on the Java base. But people who are coming from feature phone, they are not engaging with that content. So from SEO, from organic, we are getting a lot of traffic which is coming from the Java. So they are not engaging with the content, they are just going back. So how to deal with that problem? Because I think Google only deals with that, okay, it is a mobile user. They don't deal Android and Java user differently.
Actually, you can set up. There's this option called dynamic serving, where you can actually set up different web pages for users coming from different devices.
But
right?
I
So
don't,
for all, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the content even for Java. I
Okay.
don't have anything to give to the Java users. If it is totally an Android content store.
So you can sort of set it up in such a way that your desktop pages show up for every other user apart from mobile pages. So if you have a separate mobile website and
Yeah.
a desktop website, so when people are searching from mobile phones, they'll see your mobile version, right?
Right.
But when they're searching from other devices, tablets or anything else, they'll see your desktop version. You can like sort of set it up in that manner. But if like that's the case, right? If feature phones in the first place shouldn't be able to access HTML pages because they can't support HTML pages. They can only support WAP and other yeah, CHTML. So they shouldn't be able to even see your content. So I'm not sure like how that exactly is working. But if you're speaking about phones that are not on the Android platform, but in that case, it's like I mean, it's you can sort of uh, give an option for them to see your desktop. In Chrome, at least I know that there's an option for them to return to the desktop site. Even in your within your website, you can just provide a link on top, sort of like the desktop, and go to the desktop version.
Okay, right.
Let's see. Question from the Q&A. So we have a question on which are the best promotion techniques of Android and iOS apps.
I think we have dealt with that.
Okay. So Ramesh asks, Google's targeting doorway pages. So what we need to check with our sites to make sure that we don't get hit with this update. Through tags, pages, topics can be affected due to this update. So if you're not aware, doorway pages basically mean that the content on a particular page is minimal, but it's simply existing to funnel traffic to another website. Sort of like there are 10 pages that have very minimal content about a product, and they're funneling all of those users via some links or something to another page, which actually from where you can actually buy that product. So this is obviously not a good user behavior. So the user would obviously like to, instead of these middle pages, they'd like to get to the landing page directly, right? They don't have to bother with going through multiple steps. So this is obviously something that we don't recommend in our webmaster guidelines. And if you feel there are pages that are not really useful on your website, like just do a sanity check on all the pages of your website and just remove them, or like if you can add and make that content useful, please do so. Anything to add?
No, I think we're.
Any live questions? Okay, we'll take a question from Neeraj Pandey. Does internal site linking matter directly in ranking or indirectly? Also, if I have 200 websites of my business, I mean one website for each city, and want to add them in the footer section only by promoting them without nofollow, how is this bad? In general, if you are linking to other like properties within, like sort of like you have motorcycle servicing station in like 10 cities, and if you're linking to the other ones, it's not bad as long as you don't use like really spammy anchor text and stuff. So if we see something like you're deliberately trying to manipulate search results, that's something that we'll probably consider that as bad. But if you're simply linking to your relevant properties, that's nothing bad. So
yeah, I think in summary it goes back to your intent and how it is going to help your users. So if you think your users need to know about the other existence of other websites, then you may explore ways that you can actually convey that on your pages to your users. Maybe you can use a drop down, or maybe you can link in the footer and things like those. But if you're actually thinking that, okay, this will help me build page rank, and then I will redirect that to some other website, some other web page, and things like that, then that may not be seen as a very good practice by Google. Okay, there is another question from Ramesh. He asks,
do we have to implement the same schema on mobile site if schema is implemented on the desktop side? If you think it's relevant, why not? I mean, if you have ratings that show up for your search results.
So basically, you don't have to. First of all, one thing to remember is implementing schema is not going to affect your ranking in any way, either positively or negatively. That's not a ranking signal, right? So having said that, you would definitely want a consistent user experience, right? Either on mobile or desktop. So if you're using separate URLs, then it makes perfect sense to give the consistent user experience no matter what device they're using. So it's a good practice to implement schema on your mobile website as well. So yes, that's definitely a recommendation.
Okay, Kuldeep asks, we're having a real estate website and maintaining separate subdomains for every new project. Is it a good practice to have thousands of subdomains? Will there be any penalty? Can we continue with the same practice? See, if you think it's easier to manage by having projects in new subdomains, and like if it's like showing up in search results properly and your users are like able to look at the content properly, then there's no reason it's bad or anything. And you can always, if you have many subdomains, you can always verify them separately in Webmaster Tools and look at data and stuff for each and every subdomain. So it's depending upon like how you want to maintain your website and if it's useful for your users. That way, if you think it's good, please carry on with the practice. And if you feel like you can do better by organizing it in another way, you can go ahead. So from Google's perspective, it's like if you're violating our guidelines, which basically means you're trying to manipulate search results, that's something that we look upon as bad. But for like organizing where you want to put a certain article in which directory, these things are more about like your user experience stuff. So like how your user experiences your website. So we take it from that angle and design your website. Ramesh asks, we have thousands of 404 pages on our site. Many of them are getting generated by a CMS. Many of them are fixed by Webmaster Tools is still showing them in reports. Can this affect our site performance? 404s don't really affect site performance. So if there are 404s, there are pages that are going to be removed anyway. Sometimes Webmaster Tools is a bit slow. There's a delay in which we're slow to crawl those 404 pages and show them as like remove them from search results. But pretty much like if a page is if you 404 a certain page and it's still showing in search results, it just means that we've yet to crawl it and remove the cache. So once we crawl it, we'll understand that it's a 404 and we'll just remove that page from search results. And since that page is not there in your website, it's not really affecting your traffic in any manner. So like 404s, don't worry too much about it. If you have soft 404s, try and fix them, like try and return the correct HTTP request, but otherwise this is not something you should worry about. Now Kuldeep also has a question on 404s. 404s are increasing, but the links from URLs are showing nothing. What will I do to resolve this issue? And showing 40 redirects for smartphones, can you explain this? The first part of your question, if I understand correctly, you're saying you've gotten a lot of 404 errors within your website, and like URLs are 404s because they're not showing anything. I'm not sure what exactly is the issue,
So
but
I think, yeah, if I understood correctly, you are saying that okay, there are 404s that are being displayed in Webmaster Tools, but you do not know where the links are actually coming from. I think that is what you mean, right? So basically, you say where they are linked from. So you're not able to find where those pages are linked from, and then you're getting a 404 page. So again, I think what
like maybe the link pages are also kind of 404 now. So
yeah,
it's sort of like it's just a matter of Google crawling them again and seeing this, and those 404 errors also should slowly go away from your Webmaster Tools. And even if they don't, it shouldn't really be something you should concern yourselves about.
Yeah, so
it wouldn't really affect your site's performance.
Give it some time, and hopefully they'll just go away from your Webmaster Tools accounts as well.
Around faulty redirects. So faulty redirects basically means, say you have a home page, contact, and about us on your desktop page, and the same pages on your mobile. But when people are visiting, like say abc.com/contact us, if they get that link on during mobile search, and when they click it, instead of going to m.abc.com/contact us, they're just going to m.abc.com. So they're not going to the corresponding mobile page. They're being redirected to the home page of mobile instead of being redirected to the correct page. So this is an example of faulty redirects, right? So the redirect is not correctly showing the content that was shown before. So this is actually a very, like, even if you didn't redirect it, at least the user would have gotten the desktop page, which would have shown some information. But now he's going to a completely different page and he has to navigate through all that again. So this is a very bad experience for the user, and which is why it's sort of it will bring a negative. We sort of consider that as a this as something negative, and we'll probably you could get a demotion in rankings for this, in mobile rankings for this. But you can see any faulty redirects you have in Webmaster Tools, so in mobile reports, so you can just fix them via that tool. Ramesh asks, how important is it to work on your page layout like UI, UX? Does it help in your ranking?
Okay, again, this is not a direct signal for your ranking, of course, but I think end of the day, it really matters what kind of experience you're giving to your users, so that may somehow reflect indirectly. So the better you can do, good. One thing to note, though, is that whatever your UI UX experience that you're giving to user is, let Google understand that, and how you can do that is by allowing Googlebot to crawl resources like CSS, JavaScript, and your images. So if any of these resources are being logged from being crawled by Google, then Google may not be able to understand your UI and if it is mobile friendly or not, for example, and that may actually affect your ranking. So yeah.
So we have a question on Hindi websites. Why English sites get more organic traffic than Hindi sites, and what can Hindi sites do to get more organic traffic?
Okay.
It's there, Nature's Basket.
Sorry, we'll just mute you in between.
Okay, so why English sites get much more organic traffic than Hindi sites? I'm not sure. I don't have any data to approve of this comment. I'm not sure, but I think it depends on a lot of things. So, for example, if somebody is searching in English, the query is intended for English pages, then of course English pages will rank. And as we know, English search is still very big compared to Hindi search. It is still very small, and we have a lot less resources in Hindi on the World Wide Web than we have in English. So there are a lot of factors that can actually affect. But if somebody is searching in Hindi or the query is intended for Hindi web pages, then of course Hindi search, Hindi pages.
As long as they're relevant Hindi pages, there's no reason why.
Absolutely. So I think it goes back to what is relevant. Right?
Of course, there is a small void here where there are people who are sort of typing Hindi queries, but they're using the English script. Right, so that is something that we haven't figured out yet.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Basically, transliterated content. If people are typing Hindi words using English script, there are a lot of pages which actually follow the same thing, meaning they write content in transliterated text. So we may sometimes rank those, or if we understand the intent of the user better, then we may rank Hindi pages. So yes, so I think as the Hindi search grows, as Hindi web grows, we will understand this entire Hindi content better, and we should be able to rank stuff better. But I think, as you have mentioned, that's not really a problem as far as I know.
Kuldeep says we don't have smartphone equivalent pages, so what can we do to fix faulty redirects? In general, if you don't have smartphone pages, just stop redirecting, because at least if you don't redirect, they'll at least see the desktop version, which is not so bad. At least they'll get to see some sort of content. So if you don't have smartphone pages, then I'm not sure where exactly you will be redirecting to. So
yeah, I think it is from a user perspective, so I better see the content I wanted to see. I mean, even if it is in desktop format, I have some difficulty consuming that content. but I think that's a little better experience than getting redirected to some irrelevant page or a home page. That's much more frustrating experience. So in cases where you don't have mobile versions of your desktop content, then it is better to show the content in the desktop format than redirecting to random pages.
We have a question on how should we do link building for separate mobile websites? The same way you do it for your desktop sites, because it's the same website. You're just showing it like maybe there's some content different for your mobile users, but in general, like it's the same. It's your content in both websites. So if you get any, if you're getting a certain link to your, like say the homepage of your mobile desktop version, and it's redirecting to the mobile, sort of like it's redirecting to the mobile version when people are searching on mobile devices, then the same, that link will sort of apply to this mobile version also, because it's the same site, right? We're just trying to show relevant content.
And I think going back to basics, link building is something that is actively may not be pursued, because links are basically, the people who find your content useful, they link to your content so that they can share that with their users. So I think what you should think more of is, okay, how can you promote your mobile website, right? So using social media or whatever means you have. So just as you're promoting your desktop version of your website, you may want to promote the mobile version as well.
So Ramesh asks, following up on Kuldeep's questions, um, many news sites are using English words to optimize in Google, like news and Hindi. What do you think? Is it a good practice to have such strategy?
Yeah, we have seen this practice on a lot of websites. People are writing Hindi content, but in between they're stuffing English keywords. Overall, I think this is definitely not recommended, because again, going back to our users, if say for example, if I'm reading an article in Hindi and suddenly I encounter keywords in other language like English, and a lot of these people may not be fluent in reading or understanding English, so it is not a very good experience for them. So coming from there, I think this is definitely not a good practice. However, this doesn't mean that you can't have any English content on Hindi pages that basically supports the Hindi content. You can have some English keywords here and there, and if you feel there is no equivalent, I mean there is an English word and there is no equivalent of that in Hindi, then you're free to use those English words as well on your pages.
Divya asks, my site has passed the mobile usability test and it doesn't show the mobile friendly label. So mobile friendly, here we basically decided that your website is either mobile friendly or not mobile friendly, and using the mobile usability test, you can pretty much check that whether your site is mobile friendly or not. So if you did get, if the test showed that your site is mobile friendly, it's probably just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think you're talking about mobile friendly tool.
The label, so the label that it
no, the tool.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of time before it shows up.
Yeah, just go to mobile friendly test tool and then test if your pages
are.
So
her website passed the test, so it should just be a matter of time before your site actually shows the mobile friendly label in search results. Ramesh has a question on regarding content part of any page. By the way, if you have any live questions, you can always just stop us and ask your question. Regarding content part on any page, what is the most important section that Google evaluates for ranking? What about page layout area, like header, navigation links, sidebar links?
Yeah, I think again, there are no standards around any of these things, right? So again, as Ashish had mentioned in one of his previous answers, it depends on how the architecture of your website, right? How you want to frame your website, or what kind of experience you're looking to give to your users, or what are your goals and strategies of your business. So I think these are the things that should influence, you should consider basically in making decision around these things. It should not be search ranking. So there are no recommendations or whatsoever around these things. just keep in mind that you're giving the best possible experience to your users, and these things really don't matter, how you structure your website and things like those.
So we have some questions around Hangout. So we just have only one Hangout. I'm not sure why it shows up twice, but I'm sorry about the crashes. Please file feedback. Uh, Neha has a question. We have a separate XML sitemap for separate mobile site. Should we put that in the desktop XML sitemap index file? So first things first, if you there's no reason to actually put a separate sitemap file, so you can have all your desktop and mobile URLs in one sitemap. It's not an issue. And if for Webmaster Tools, as long as you verify both your desktop and mobile versions, it's fine to have all your URLs in one sitemap. But if you're sort of maintaining a sitemap index with link to a desktop sitemap and a mobile sitemap, you can just put your mobile sitemap in the index file. It's as long, the only criteria for submitting sitemaps in Webmaster Tools is all the URLs you're submitting, you should have them verified in Webmaster Tools. That's the only criteria. We have a question from Avinash. What will be the significance of mobile sites in comparison to mobile app when going mobile apps going ahead? So first things first, some sites like they don't need an app. Like if it's just content or information you're providing, like a website could be a better experience. But then there are some cases where like the user needs to do actions, right? Like say maybe it's a small game or something where the user there requires some input from the user. In those cases, you may feel apps are better. In which case, so what we are trying to help with this is we've introduced app indexing, where you have both your mobile page and your app, and you sort of link the pages on your mobile version to the pages within your so the deep links within your app, so that even in search, if someone's searching for some content that's relevant to your website, along with your site URL, we'll also show, at least in Android devices, we'll show a link to your app, so that they can just go. The user can get the intended experience from your mobile app rather than your mobile site. So it's all about like what you expect your user to do and your user's experience. Sometimes an app could be a lot better than a mobile website, but sometimes a website is good enough and you don't actually need an app. Sundar has a question on, don't you think it'll be good to show one or two Hindi results if the search result is made from India? So the thing is, if it's in question in English, we'll try and show like English results, because that's what we expect the user is looking for. So
we can't assume that everybody searching from India can read or understand Hindi. As number suggests, there are like about 400 million people who actually speak Hindi, and we have more than 1.2 billion people in India. So it depends on what type of queries. If somebody is looking for Hindi results, then of course we will definitely serve Hindi results.
Yeah, but on like we generally try and be as relevant as possible to the query in question. Okay. Yeah, creating interlinking, strong interlinking, will that help in ranking? So if you have interlinking, will help discovery, which may indirectly lead to better ranking if the content is good, right? But that's not a ranking signal. Just because you link all the pages within your site to each other and put in 100 links in each page doesn't mean your ranking will increase. But if you have a good navigation structure and link your URLs properly, that will, even if you don't have a sitemap, it will help Google to crawl your site effectively and discover all your content. And once we index that content, if it's relevant, we'll serve that to the users. And like, because now your content is indexed, whenever a user is searching for relevant content, it will show up. So it will indirectly affect your user views. But like, there's no, it's not a direct ranking signal. Ramesh has a question. I hope links is still important. Suggest how small websites can get natural links. What small businesses can do to promote their services.
Yeah, so one thing to keep in mind is again talking about links or page rank. That is one of the many, like more than 200 signals we use, right? So that is not the only thing um, to consider. However, talking about how you can basically, get recognized and build authority and name and brand and things like those. Of course, I think it takes time and you will have to invest resources. So I think as a small business, you should look at, okay, what resources are available to you? What is your niche? What are your audience expectations? Your users, what are they wanting? How you can provide them that value and things like those. So I think it's basically a business question, not a search question, right? So there are tons of things on the internet that you can read and learn how you can market yourself. And I think social media is one of the most powerful tools we have today. So definitely consider using that.
But yeah, of course, it's not easy, and like if it was,
Yes,
everyone would have thousands of
yes.
links.
I'm not saying like everybody can do everything that is out there, but as a small business, I think there are some things that you can definitely do. Of course, you will have to invest time, money, energy, everything, and you should be prepared for that.
Okay, so we are almost out of time, but if you have any live questions, please. Anyone? Okay, it was a really good hangout. We got a lot of like, really nice questions. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you in another month. All right, see you.
Thanks for joining. Bye bye.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye bye.